Hello, everybody. It's good to see you all on a Tuesday. I am here with Miss Ellen Byron. Hello.
Hello. And I wore a special shirt for this. This is one of my favorite shirts, although I have a little pudgy for it. Now I have to get it in a larger size. It says, "Good girls go to church, bad girls go to Mardi Gras."
Very fitting.
I'm a bad girl.
Love it. Love it. Well, as I kind of mentioned, I just like for you to take a little bit and introduce all your series and whatever it is that you want to tell us about them, and then we'll get more into the nitty
Okay,
gritty.
great. So the first series I wrote was called the Cajun Country Mysteries, and there are 7 books in it. And it was inspired by a passion I developed for Cajun country and also, of course, New Orleans when I was a student at Tulane University. And it's set in the fictional town of Pelican, Louisiana. It's a village, really, where the slogan is "Yes, we Pelican." And I had a lot of fun writing it. Then my next series was called the Catering Hall Mysteries, and I wrote that under the name Maria DeRico, which was my late nonna's maiden name, because that series is really, my mom was Italian. She came over to this country when she was little. She's about 3, and so I grew up with a very Italian on that side of the family, very, very Italian family, where I could go to a family function and not even hear English. And so that series is, my character lives where Nana lived. She works at one of the catering halls one of my cousins ran, one of my mom's cousins by marriage ran. So it's very personal, and it's very light, really fun. All my mysteries have humor to them.
Mhm.
So because that was my background as a sitcom writer. And so then the next series that launched was the Vintage Cookbook Mysteries. And that is inspired by my own hobby of collecting vintage cookbooks, and it's actually set in the Garden District of New Orleans, and in a one of the Garden District mansions that's been turned into kind of a culinary house museum honoring one of New Orleans' most famous restaurateurs, who in the book is named Genevieve Charbonnet, but in real life is inspired by Ella Brennan.
Oh,
Of Commander's Palace, and I actually almost used the house. There were 2 houses where she lived in the Garden District, one with her sister, one not. But I found another house that just really spoke to me. That I envision as the house which is now Bonvie, and my most recent series is the Golden Motel Mysteries. And the protagonist, and that's, people have often said to me, well, why don't you, since you were a sitcom writer, why don't you write a series set in the sitcom world? And, basically my answer is, first of all, I'd have to write the sitcom. And I did that for years, and it's really hard. And also it just feels, it just is either, it's a combination of too close and too insular. But what I did is, in that series, my agent and I describe it as Hacks meets Schitt's Creek, because my protagonist is, I call her a recovering sitcom writer, because her career is kind of on the downslide, and she's working on a really bad kids channel show called Duh, which was inspired by a couple of the Disney shows I worked on towards the end of my sitcom career. And she sees the handwriting on the wall, and also she finds out at the age of 40 she's eligible for her union's career longevity committee. So which is based on the truth, although they have upped the age, I think, finally, to a whopping, I think, 50. So yeah, that's the business. And so she impulsively buys this a very retro, rustic, mid-century motel in California's gold rush country, and she goes into it as a business with her best friend Jeff, who was also very briefly her first husband. And with those books, every book has some element of the entertainment industry plus some historical element of California. And this motel is in a very tiny hamlet, really. I wouldn't even call it a village, called Found Gold. But what's nearby is Gold's Gone, which is inspired by Columbia State Historic Park up outside Sonora, and is the largest restored miners village in the state. And I was there the first time when I was a teenager, and my aunt and uncle, my great aunt and uncle, had moved from Brooklyn to Modesto, if you can imagine that transition. But they were very, and I came to visit, and Aunt Molly, great Aunt Molly, took me to Columbia State Historic Park, and it really stayed with me. And I just really, I love history. So it's a way of that series, a way of getting everything in. I get little bits of history in each book. I get little bits of it, of the show business, even though she's like hours away from LA in this rural setting. There's an agent who lives there part time, and he's inspired by like all these Hollywood agents I knew, and so his supposed trophy wife, who's really a lovely woman, and doesn't balks at that label and wants to be more than that. So I really like creating. I've started to use the expression immersive book series, where you really, my goal is to really make people, because I love this feeling. I'm a big fan of historical mysteries because I feel like they transport me to another time and place in history. And so I want people to like just feel immersed in the world I create and feel like the characters, and of course the mystery. I mean, my goal is always to stump people. And I often will have two, like a smaller mystery, so that even if they get one, the other might stump them. Because that's how I like to read. I don't want to figure it out. I don't go, oh, goody, I figured it out. I go, darn, I figured it out. So I'm that reader, because there were two kinds. There are the ones who are just determined to figure it out, and they take great pride in that. And then there are ones like me who are like, I just want to go, whoa, I did not see that coming. So that's a little about my series, so my two of them are technically finished, but I never say, it's like how we say in the business, on hiatus, which is another way of saying, we stop saying canceled, but you'll say on hiatus. Although I do believe, that with my series, it's like with the vintage cookbook, that was only, the original deal was 2 books with Berkeley Prime Crime, and then they ended it after 2 books. But God bless Severn House. They were like, yeah. And, Kensington was also interested, but for various reasons couldn't pursue it. They saw that series had potential and they picked it up. And right now I'm working on the outline for the 6th book. The next one coming out will be next summer. Crescent City Christmas Chaos just came out, and then that's Christmas in New Orleans with mystery and my character's life in it. And then next year the one out will be A Murderous Mardi Gras. And I just paraded in February. I actually went to New Orleans and
That's so cool.
paraded with a couple of crews. I was supposed to do 3, but one got rained out. But I did go to their pre-party, and I really again, that word comes up, immerse myself, so that I can give my books that personal experience that comes. I translate. I really translate my experiences into my series.
What a neat experience.
Yeah.
So the Cajun Country is the first thing that I ever read. And, um, I mean, as of now, it's on hiatus.
I
and, but I loved the wrap up. I,
oh
I,
thank you.
I loved the wrap up. I thought it was wonderful. I thought it was just, I thought it was great. I think more series should know
Yes.
so that there can be that closure, because I thought it was just so good. Now,
Well, I tried to do the same thing. I basically knew the writing was on the wall for the catering hall mysteries, and so I did I really love that last book, the Witless Protection Program, because I just wrote my heart out, and I said to my agent at one point, I said, this is a screenplay masquerading as a book. It's very visual, it moves, and but it's like, if you feel you can give some sense of full circle, I think it's really great.
mhm. I do hope there is more in the catering hall. I think that is one of my favorite series. That's
Oh,
probably my favorite that you write. I love the catering hall.
thank
Um,
you.
I think it's so much fun. And the last one was my favorite. I thought it was so clever and witty. And I love that whole family. I just I love the catering hall. I think it's so fun.
Thank you.
So
That's yeah, it's very it's my probably my lightest one, that
yeah.
there I sometimes try to get a little depth into my others. And that one I just like, there was some depth in her concern about her dad, or her fractured relationship with her mother, which gets fixed pretty in I think the 3rd book. I can't even remember. But yeah, it was super fun to write. So I feel like I was gonna say something else. I don't remember what. Oh well.
Um, I was gonna ask you before we get in the comments, which character, and I think I know the answer, but I'm still gonna ask, which character that you write do you think that you're most like?
Oh, I would say actually D.
That's what I thought because she was a
Yeah,
sitcom, right? That's what I thought
yeah.
you were gonna say, but I
I
just
mean,
wondered.
there's a little of me, there's a little of me in every character, but I also see other people. I mean, you know, I see other for that's the one, even though I'm not remotely, she's much more blunt than I am. She's much more opinionated. She will stick her neck out and get herself into trouble in ways that I never would. I think I live vicariously through her. Like, I don't know if you read Solid Gold Murder yet, but
You did.
oh yeah, well, when she's like, Verity's like, no, you can't be this because you don't have any like you don't have any you don't live in Gold's Gone, and she finds this little sliver of land that's actually within the border. And then Verity's like, well, that's fine, but you don't live there. And she goes, oh, no, I do. And she pitches it. She's so determined that she pitches a tent. And, even with the bear running around, she goes and stays in that tent because she's going to prove that she lives there. So that's, I mean, I would never do that, but I love that. I love giving her that chutzpah, that moxie to go, well, screw you. I'm going to do it. You say that I don't live there. Well, I'm going to prove you wrong. So
I really love the Golden Motel. I really love the relationship between Dee and Jeff. I think it's really nice to see that they're not in love, but they still love each other. And so they've
yes.
remained these close friends. And I love seeing that. I think that's fantastic.
Oh, thanks. Well, and I was talking about this yesterday, as you heard, that I really wanted to create a deep male-female friendship that may have been sexual at one point, but they both realize they're just better off as friends. They will never be more than friends. And, I could have made him her brother, but to me, it was much more interesting to, because I have male friends who I once like maybe had a fling with. And to me, that's a more interesting, less obvious relationship, that you can have had that weird period and then realize exactly what you said, that they're not in love but they can love each other, and they will never, readers. And I said readers don't often, I mean, I think readers more come from it like you, like, yeah, I really like their friendship, but occasionally someone will go, well, they get together, and not like with that like heart pounding, oh, more like just kind of in a way. I get the sense that they're hoping they're not going to, and I always know they are friends.
Like, that ship has sailed.
That ship said the ship was there at one point, sailed 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you have the Cajun country in Louisiana. You
Yes.
had the cookbook is in the Garden District in New Orleans, so
Right.
Louisiana. You have Catering Hall in New York,
Yes.
and you have the Golden Motel in California. Which
Yes.
location do you think is the most fun, or that you get the best enjoyment out of writing?
Honestly, I hate to sound like that person. It's like, oh, they're all my children, but it's really true. When I'm in it, you have to love it when you're writing it, because writing is hard.
Oh,
And I think each one I love for a different reason. Like, I just love New Orleans so very much. And it's, and it gives me every excuse to go there. So when I'm writing about that, it's, and then New York, I mean, I was writing where my grandmother lived, my nonna lived. And I was, when Ricky got off Ricky, see, I call them all the different names. When Mia got off the subway to walk to her, home, she was walking the literal route I took when I visited Nonna, or my aunt and uncle lived upstairs, which is where Mia lives in the book with their 4 kids. So that's very personal. I get homesick when I write that. But also it's been so cool to write about this beautiful region of California, which isn't necessarily on people's radar as much. It's more like, and even like I'll say to locals, do you know Columbia State Historic Park? And they're like, no. I'm like, you should. It's in your, it's. But someone will go, yes, I went there when I was a kid. And it was so interesting because, again, I had been since I was, a teenager. And so I've done 2 trips up to that region, and it's not easy from here. I mean, we can get up to the Yosemite, and again, I cheat geography. That the 2 are actually in real time are about 2.5 hours from each other, or 2 hours from each other. And I cheated in my book a little in terms of the geography. But But to get to like Columbia, it's like an hour on a 2-lane road to the freeway and then home. So it takes quite a bit. But we were on the Golden Chain Highway, which is also Highway 49, which runs from the southern end, the southern mines, the gold mines, all the way up, way up to like probably the Sierra to kind of the Tahoe region. Maybe not quite that far, but runs all through the gold rush of 1849, which is why it's called 49. And at one point, where there's a really scary part, it's called Devil's Hollow, I
Ooh.
think. You're way up on this curvy hairpin 2-lane road, and you look down and the Merced River is below, but it is so beautiful. And we're on this road and it's just gorgeous, terrifying and gorgeous. And I realized, you know what, if you could, as the crow flies, go 4 hours west, you're at the ocean. So it's like, and it's even, you could drive like, take one of the routes and go like drive 4 to 5 hours and you're suddenly at a completely different gorgeous terrain. So I'm trying to I've really embraced being in California. I've been here for years. I was such a New Yorker, and I was always like, and I say this now, that I was a New Yorker who lives in California. And then about a year ago, my mom passed away. And when, she was still living in New York, and not in the city, but in the suburbs. And when my husband and I were like settling everything and getting, on the plane for the final return back home, I said to him, next time I come to New York, I'm going to be a tourist. And it was such a weird sensation because I still have family there, I still have friends there, but something changed. And I came to the point of realizing I've lived in California now longer than I lived anywhere else. I've lived here for 35 years, and I'm not a New Yorker who lives in California. Years ago, my cousin said to me, about 10 or 15 years ago, one of my cousins said, "Oh, you're a Californian." I was like, no, I'm not. I'm a Californian. And so I really feel like I should celebrate and embrace the state that's given me, I met my husband here. I had a career, a very good career here. And I don't want to be dismissed. Why should my state, it's very anthropomorphic on my part. But it's not fair to dismiss the state that's given me so much and is beautiful and special and unique.
Absolutely. Um, Hey, Kat. She said, hello, Tiffany, Ellen, and friends in the chat. I'm excited to be here. My friend Lori and I led a group read of, Bio Book Thief for the Mardi Gras readathon earlier this year. Kat, that's awesome.
That's fantastic. And anyone watching, if you ever have a book club and it's on, I'm happy to, I pop in all the time. I'm happy
That's amazing.
because I really am so grateful to, everyone has a lot of choices. I have a lot of choices when it comes to reading. So when you choose one of my books, it means a lot to me. I'm eternally grateful.
That's amazing. You heard it here. Take her up on it. Anita said, hey, everyone, I'm glad to be here. Ellen is one of my favorite authors. Her work is always on my TBR. I think as far as cozy mystery authors, you're probably one of my most read because I always stay up. The only books that I have not read that you have written are the last two in the vintage cookbook. I've read the Halloween and I haven't read the Christmas. That is it. I've read every single other thing. So I'm like, okay, I got to get to the Halloween. I'm very excited about it too. Because I enjoy that series. That character is really fun too because of her backstory and her history. Yeah. The main character in that series, if you don't know, was adopted by her NICU nurse, right?
NICU nurse, yes.
Right. Exactly. I'm not making up. Okay. I'm like, and so there's, some backstory behind that. And it had just where I left off going into Halloween, we had just found out something big.
Yeah.
I did this.
Yeah. And, and the fact that, her NICU nurse was Black and she married a Hispanic man, a grip who was in town from Hollywood. I use a lot of things I hear, in my world and bring that in. I know people in the business who work on location. So and then they moved to LA. And so she lives in LA. And then the other things, because of this is my world, the entertainment world. I know a lot of actors. So having, she was briefly married to an actor who was a struggling actor, but became kind of one of those YouTube stars doing stupid stunts. And they were estranged when he died. which was she feels terrible about because everyone treats her like, oh, you're this 28-year-old widow. That's so sad that young. And she knows that like the relationship was just, months away from being completely dissolved. So she has a lot of guilt. And then also, and I've said before, I'm fascinated. Things that are happening in the world will influence what I write. Like I'm fascinated with the whole Bernie Madoff thing. And I firmly, firmly believe his sons had no idea what was going on. And so that whole kind of Shakespearean level, I made it, okay, well, her career, she was working for this billionaire whose money was based on a Ponzi scheme, and everyone who was near him got torched by this, whether they knew or not. So, and it's funny how things influence you. Like I just finished, another real life case that I've instantly found fascinating was the Murdoch case. Because like when I read that, because I think as crime writers, the more we write, the more our instincts are very finely honed. So even reading initially, like just as things started to leak out, then you go, oh, this guy did it.
That's
This
the
like,
South Carolina lawyer.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
So the reason
That's such a last name that I'm like, I think that, yeah.
but it's spelled Murdaugh, but it's Murdoch, I think, pronounced.
Yeah.
But anyway, the reason I bring it up is because in the book I'm writing now, there's a father, and I think he's not him, but there are like the fact that he was so shady is kind of influencing the character I'm writing, one of the characters I'm writing now.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I like when authors do that, when they take, I mean, I guess you could say that about all fiction, probably that it comes from somewhere, but like Law and Order does it a lot. And not that I
Yes.
watch Law and Order, but just that concept. I like when they
Oh,
take something true and in the moment and kind of make it this fictional
I have to tell you,
representation.
because I had a theater, I was in the theater world in New York, for years, from like through the 80s until I moved out here in 1990. I was involved with a lot of the theater companies, as a playwright, and when Law and Order started in '90, I'd see a lot of the actors I know playing like lawyers and victims or killers, and then as time has go on, I'll see the same actors, but now they're like in retirement homes.
Oh,
Yeah, now they have Alzheimer's. Now they're like somebody's grandparent. But
oh,
and it's like, oh look, there's Marilyn. Oh, now she's now she's got dementia.
oh.
She was a lawyer in 1990. Now she's got
Right?
dementia.
Oh. Hey, Jill. She says, hi,
Hi.
everyone.
I like to do my pageant wave.
Yeah.
Screwing in a light bulb, screwing in a light bulb. I actually got to do that on the Mardi Gras float when I was doing the float parade. I did one
That
walking
is
parade
so
before
cool that you got
and
to
one
do
float
that.
parade. Oh, it was so much fun. And we'd have
That's
to
such a
stop
neat.
for like a long time because, you sit a lot. Well, you sit for hours before you finally get on the route. And then once you're on the route, like things will slow down, because they have to let your, and so I remember on one, like, and in New Orleans, there's what they call the neutral ground and the sidewalk side. So the neutral ground is what the rest of the world will call a median. It's the grass area. And so on St. Charles, it's also where the streetcars run. So you'll get your assignment on the float and you're either on sidewalk side or neutral ground. And the neutral ground is, like I said, it's more where the locals camp out. And I remember there was one where they had like, their canopies and their pop-up tents and they're blasting music. And I started dancing and they started dancing because we were just parked for a bit. It was just a blast.
I mean, that's such a neat experience that you got to do. That's so cool. That's so cool. Hi, Anita. I know. She said I missed the Cajun Country series, but I do think it just had the best wrap up. I really enjoyed that
Well,
series.
I'll tell you something interesting. If there's a chance, I'm not sure. I'm working on my sixth contracted vintage cookbook. If I get contracted to do more, I had the idea, and if I can pull it off, that Ricky, that Pelican is doing his first ever book festival. And so Ricky would go up and stay at Crozat B&B. And so we'd have like Ricky and Maggie working together.
Oh, that would be amazing, like a crossover. That would be
Yes.
so cool.
Yeah, a
That'd be
mashup,
so
a
cool.
crossover, a mashup. I also did write a short story, and I don't know if if it's going to be published yet, but I did write a short story where Grand Mère is the protagonist because I actually did pitch a spinoff of the series featuring Grand Mère because I didn't realize how much fun I would have writing her, and I had a blast writing her, but it didn't get picked up. It was before like the older sleuth thing that's happening now, where everybody's like a
Mm.
so I was a little ahead of my game, a little ahead of time. Sorry.
I have been toying around with forever. I've been saying this forever, but I just think I'm not sure how to execute it. But like, do you remember VH1 and they did the Where Are They Now? Like with
Yeah.
the bands? I want to do that with Cozy Mystery Series.
Oh,
Like
that's
a
so
Where Are They Now?
cool.
And have like the authors talk about like what their characters are doing in 2025, if they like from series that are past and stuff. But it seems hard to execute because
Yeah.
now a lot of people are bringing back series,
Yeah.
or I
Exactly.
don't want to make somebody write something for it, or
Yeah.
but I just think it would
Yeah.
be such a fun idea to be like able to almost interview the character but like in 2025 or
Yeah.
something along that line.
It'd be funny if some of them had really dark. They ended up in really dark places.
Right.
Like really like Maggie is
Right.
an alcoholic and her husband post cheated. I mean, not I couldn't do that. But none of us. Look, there's a reason we write cozy, so we're not going to do that. I miss someone wrote I miss the Cajun country. I miss it too, but I really I love writing what I'm writing now, and it was fun to write Grand Mère again. I hope that that short story does end up being published in a collection, in an anthology. And yeah, it's fun to revisit in different ways. And like I said, I periodically think about and I love the idea of a mashup of a
Yeah,
crossover. I think that would be really fun.
it would be fun. Angel Wolf said, "Hi, Tiffany Highland. Hi, everyone in the chat. Hello." Oh, Storm. Storm says, "Hi. I had this on notified. I didn't get notified."
uh
YouTube.
well,
Yeah.
don't worry because I was on the wrong platform. I was on Instagram, so I was like panicking. So
She
by
said,
the
"Are
way, I
you
pointed
still
this out before because I've actually I was going to do this in my office if I'd remembered, but now and I've got that set up, although it's a bit messy. But now I'm doing it in my dining room. So the good news is you get to see in the distance. That's one of my needle points that was framed that I stitched. Sorry, I have tendonitis in my shoulder.
Oh,
Yeah, it's not fun.
ooh. Um, I've been seeing that you put up a picture of a project you were working on, a Malice project of some kind. It
Yes,
is so cool.
I am going to be the Toastmaster this year, which is an
Yes.
absolute dream come true because my mystery writing career started at Malice. In 2013, I'd won one of the Malice Domestic Grants for William F. Deek Malice Domestic Grant for unpublished writers, and that really kicked off my mystery career. And so it's really a full circle moment. I decided I want to do something really special for the auction. I always donate a lot, but
Mm.
and I had the idea. My daughter, sorry, I have a thing where sorry, I talk too much and too fast and I don't breathe enough. So I have to yawn to get my breath. But my daughter is really talented artistically. And so she painted a canvas of the Malice logo and then I needle pointed it. And I just turned it in a week ago to have it turned into a pillow. So we'll be auctioning that off.
So cool. That's
Yeah.
so cool. I saw it. It looks amazing.
Thank you.
Um, well, if not, it's just on hiatus and may return for more.
Yes, and I was saying, you may have missed that. If I get another contract for the vintage cookbooks, I want to bring Ricky up to Pelican for a book festival that they're doing there. So I get to combine the two series. And I did write a short story that's out on submission for that features Grand Mère as a protagonist. So hopefully that will, so that's at least a little taste of it.
One of my things about the catering hall series I love so much, because she was asked some if the
Oh, that's
catering
the
hall
catering.
building.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were
That's
talking about
okay.
the
Is
sorry.
I love the little like the family had ties to the like crime world,
Yes.
but they've kind of gone straight. But like there's points in the books where the humor comes in because like the one with the baby shower and the
Yeah.
painting, I can't think of
Yes.
what no, number two. And they're
Yes.
like,
Long
this would
Island
be a
Ice.
good
Yeah.
way to launder. And she's like, no, we are straight now. We were, it just makes me laugh so hard because I can
It was
totally
really,
picture that.
yes, I actually, and what's funny, in the book I'm writing, the outline I'm doing right now for the 6 Vintage Cookbook, there's a character, because the mob actually started in New Orleans. So I have a character who's Italian and everyone thinks he's mobbed up, although, and he plays into it. But at one point I've made it so that his ex-wife was connected to the Boldano family in New York.
Love it.
So that's an Easter egg for people
I
like you.
love those.
And
I do love those references.
I'm not writing it right now. But again, I might revisit it in the short story world. But yes, that was, and one of my favorite movies from the 80s was Married to the Mob. And I really feel like that movie just stands the test of time. It's just so smart and funny. And
Yeah.
so that tone is a little bit, but yeah, that was I had fun writing that moment where they're going, this is a great man. It's like, and she's like, no, hey, eyes up front.
It's just so funny to me. The witless protection was so much fun with the reality dom and domettes or whatever they were called. I
Oh,
can't
that
remember
was
now.
4 Parties and a Funeral. That was the
Oh,
first.
okay, okay,
That,
okay.
yes, the Dons and the Donettes, the reality show, the real Dons of Ditmarsh Boulevard.
Yeah.
But but I'll tell you something funny about that. For some reason, I got it in my head. That's the fourth book in the series. The fifth was The Witless, and I got it in my head that the title of that book, my own book, I thought was Four Funerals and a Party. And I reached the end of the draft. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have 4 funerals. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I came up with the idea of the goldfish, the funeral for 3 goldfish. And so and it turned into this beautiful speech that Shane gives Mia, confirming, basically, I think it's the proposal. I can't even remember. And then so I wrote the whole thing, and then I realized I had the title wrong. That it was 4 parties and a funeral, not 4 funerals and a party. But I kept it because it just it just segued into the perfect moment for that relationship.
Oh, that's funny. I love the Cajun Country series, one of my top favorites. Also love the Vintage Cookbook
Oh,
series
thank you.
too. Yes. Yes. The Cajun Country is definitely a favorite series of Storms. I think she actually told me about it originally.
Oh, very cool. Oh, that's cool. Thank you. Yes, Solid Gold Murder. I mean, I really love writing with that. I love touching on the history, and how I think a lot of things I write to, is how the past informs the present. That's very much true in my newest vintage Crescent City Christmas Chaos. The past basically is the catalyst for what happens in the present. And also in Solid Gold Murder, the second Golden Motel mystery. I mean, the past, the gold rush, the previous gold rush, events there trickle down and affect moments and relationships in the present, in the second gold rush, which was actually inspired by the 2023 rains here that were so heavy that they were suddenly, gold that people never knew existed was suddenly popping up in streams and caves. So it was inspired by reality.
Wow. And I'm hopping all around, but you just made me think of it when you were talking about the Christmas book that's coming out in the Vintage Cookbook. But yeah, the one that just came out. I'm sorry, but the vintage, but the Christmas one in the Cajun Country was so interesting because you're talking a lot about writing about history, true events. Like I had no idea some of the traditions of occasion Christmas with the bonfires and all those things. Cause I grew up, in the Midwest and it was so interesting. I really loved that one.
And I went there again. It's there are some things that I really can't just research and, and I have not done the Career to Mardi Gras. That's the Mardi Gras run they do in Cajun country, but I have a friend who did. So I just grilled her for a murderous Mardi Gras for that. But for the bonfires, my family and I spent that Christmas in Louisiana, and what was really, they almost got rained out, and I was like touch and go. I was like, oh God, don't let these get rained out. And if so, it would have been New Year's Eve, and we wouldn't have been there. But luckily, even though it was drizzly, it happened. But I wrote all that into it, like I was covered in drizzle and smoke and soot from that. And then we went to my friend's home, and I showered, and then she and I went to midnight mass. So, or it was at 9:30. It was like not, Christmas mass.
Yeah.
So but I wrote, I love being able to write all that into my books.
Yeah, it was so neat. It was so neat. I had never heard that. So Sue
Hey,
said, "Hi, Tiffany. Hi, Ellen. I just finished dinner. I'm glad to be joining." Well, we are glad to have you.
Nice.
Ellen, are you a plotter or a pantser? Or the term that I am currently coining or would like to coin is saggy pantser.
That's great. Or planter, but I like saggy planter. What I am, I'm an outliner, but much of my outline is pantsed. So like right now, what I find, and I curse myself for it, is that, and it happens all the time, that I will lay out so much about the first act. Like, I'm that person who, like, you see the victim. Like I don't drop the body. I once in Murderous Mardi Gras, there was a body on page 1, but then it went away because no one knew who it was. It was a stranger. So that it wasn't until like page 100, other stuff happened and someone else got murdered, so we went back to that. But like, so I have this like so much details for the first 50 pages, and then nothing. Then the middle is like little tiny notes like, oh, she has to do this, she has to do this, and then and this is the person who did it, whatever. So then I'll start but I'll break it down by chapters, knowing I call it a fluid outline, because what's interesting is because just the way, like with a script, when you're working on a TV show, especially with comedy, that what works at the table, like when you're doing the table read, may not work on its feet. When suddenly jokes that work to the table don't work on their feet. Well, when you're transitioning from outline to manuscript, you'll find you miss things, or things don't work, or you're missing something. And with the Catering Hall series, one of my favorite characters to write is Cherry Fuoco, the annoying reporter who becomes who embeds herself and goes from being an enemy to a frenemy, and embeds herself very casually and affably in Ricky's life, not Ricky's, Mia's life. She didn't exist in the outline. When I was writing the draft, and I was like, God, Ricky needs something else. She needs a nemesis to bump up against. And so I created Terry right, on the fly. So, but I really write, sorry, forgive me. My outlines tend to be 30 pages, single spaced. And then, like I said, a lot of it is but someone once said, oh, it's like your outline is your first draft. And I go, yeah, that's actually a great way to think of it. It is like my first draft. But what it means is that when I am actually writing my manuscript, it's in pretty good shape, because I've done a lot of heavy lifting in the pantsing and plotsing of the outline. And the thing is, and part of that is like TV, I would say that in television, you don't get to move on to script, or in film, until your outline is approved. And so, and then also, if you're a strong first draft writer, that's a big selling point in your career, because, if your agent can say they write strong first drafts, and I say they, because I had a writing partner for most of not all, but most of my TV stuff, the showrunners can breathe a sigh of relief. Because there is just, especially if you're doing a multi-camera show as opposed to a single camera show, we're just shot in front of a live audience. And, the time you're doing within a production week, you're doing 4 things. you're rewriting the script that's going to the table, you're and that's in production, and then you have post-production on the one you shot last week, and then you've got the script that's going to the table the next week, and you've got to break stories for the next 9 episodes. So if you have to stop and work a script to death, like whether you call it a page one, if a script is a page one, meaning it has to be completely revisited, it kills you, it slows you down. So I think my
Wow.
first drafts are pretty strong. I mean, I'll see what I'm missing, and fill in, but I think outlining gives me a chance to make a lot of mistakes in that part of the process.
Yeah. Wow. That's a lot.
Yes.
What writing software do you use?
I just use good old Word. I will like, I'll think, oh, I should read this book, or I should, and then I just like blank out. I don't have the time to learn. People love Scrivener. I mean, there are people who just cannot write without it. I bought Plotter, and I still pay for it every year, and I tried using it once, but Scrivener, it's like I don't have the time to learn how to use it. And also I don't think I have the attention span. I have like ADD. And so it's just, there are certain things that are just out of my wheelhouse. So just good old Word.
There you go. Kat said, I really enjoyed Bayou Book Thief since I'm very familiar with New Orleans. I lived on the South Shore in the suburbs
Oh,
of New Orleans until 1999, then moved to Hammond, Louisiana.
oh wow. Where on the South Shore did you live? That was good.
Very cool, Kat.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad. When someone from New Orleans tells me I got it right, it means a lot to me. And, my daughter went to school there too. She went to Loyola. And so she lived there more than I did, because she didn't come home from the summer. She worked through. And of course, once COVID hit, we just planted her there. So yeah. Oh, it's a great place to have brunch, the Audubon Clubhouse. Because it does a great brunch, and you don't have to be a member to eat there. It's in Audubon Park. Sorry, little side trip to. I also love Please You Cafe and Surrey Cafe. Those are all really good breakfasts.
That's so cool. My husband and I went to New Orleans probably in, I don't know, maybe 2017, 18, somewhere in there. And we'd never been. And the architecture is what got
Yeah.
me. It's absolutely incredible. It's really just an incredible city. I mean, the food's amazing too.
Yeah. No, that's what I
like,
love. I'm a big architecture buff, as you can
yeah.
probably tell. A lot of my books are like not just place centric, but environment, like housing, or architecture centric. But it's so funny, like in the Catering Hall Mysteries, at one point I was like, really, because I had to create, it's an urban cozy, but I wanted to create that cozy feeling, and I created that on the block. But at one point I wrote, her charming 2-story, where she lived, they call it a 2-story. And my agent was like, I lived in a story. There's nothing charming about those places. Right. It's not, it's very utilitarian. But the architecture is amazing. And what I realized too, what's interesting is that Columbia State Historic Park and the French Quarter share something in common. And that the fact that, they got kind of frozen in time, like, coated in amber, because there wasn't the money to restore them. And like the Depression in New Orleans, like, they just kind of let it be. And then, and I think it was either 50s or 60s, they were going to run I-10 through the French Quarter, and historically minded, natives and locals went, whoa, and thank God they did that. And it's like in New York, we lost Penn Station, but that started the historical preservation movement in New York that Jackie Kennedy was so influential in. And there's a plaque to her in Grand Central. So, I'm just a big believer in saving and restoring architecture.
I agree. It was just a neat place.
It's also, yeah. Sorry, go on.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I agree, Sue. I hope that the catering hall will be revisited at some point.
I hope so too. And I was just gonna say that, the things are built so much differently and so much better then.
Oh,
Like, there's, I mean, my late mom's condo where she lived, it was charming and lovely. And it was a little townhouse in the woods and beautiful. It was built in the 80s. It was like, spit and wax. I mean, I don't know how, it felt like it was built, these places like feel like they're built out of cardboard now. But, those homes in New Orleans, I mean, oh, they're so beautifully and carefully constructed.
Yeah, the architecture is just amazing. There. It was my favorite part. The Cajun Country series is my favorite,
Oh,
and the Clearing Hall is my second.
oh,
Um, that cracked me up that Dee slept in the tent. I
I just
I
loved making
do love her,
sure that.
Moxie. Now that you say that, I do. I just I really enjoy her, and I liked that she really kind of got pushed out because of her age, as you mentioned, from the sitcom world. And she just went on a drive, and next thing you know, she owns a hotel or a motel. And I'm like, I love Dee. I mean, because there in itself, like that's not something that I would ever do, not because like impulsively like
Right.
that. But I'm like, I love, I just think that she's a fantastic character.
I love her too. I really, I just admire her just like, all righty, well, I'm just not going to stop till I, get what I like that she like pushes back,
Yeah.
against Verity but yeah, she's really fun to write. And I also love that, that every element, there's a little bit of the, like in Solid Gold Murder. Well, she doesn't come down to LA, but the fact that her cartoons that Callan the agent wants to like market her cartoons and try to sell them as a series, that's like, and the development process of that, which is right, I write right into the trope of like, oh, love it, love it, love it, could it be a squirrel, could the bear be a squirrel? But what I try to do at the end for those who read Solid Gold Murder is there's a legitimate reason the studio is concerned. Not like, it's not just, I mean, it's funny along the way and you think they're being, oh my God, this is so Hollywood, but at the end, they have a very legitimate reason for their concern. And Dee goes, oh, okay, yeah, I get that. I can't do it, but I get it.
I I'm really enjoying that series. Hi, Anne.
I
How are you doing, Anne? Anne, you probably met at Ashland last year, not just
okay.
this October, but before. She was supposed to come last year and end up getting injured, like, I mean, the day of or the day before.
Uh,
Couldn't make it. So, Anne, I hope you're feeling better. I've been thinking about you.
oh,
Roxy said, "Hi, everyone.
oh,
I
you
need to pick
like
up one
Mary
of."
St. Martinville. Oh my gosh, St. Martinville was the inspiration for Pelican, part of St. Martinville, an aspect. Of course, I created different things, but I was there. I drove through there in 1984, I think it was, and St. Martinville, Roxy. There was this fascinating display of Mardi Gras gowns that were all homemade by people for their own parade there. And where was it? I couldn't find it. I spent years trying to figure out what it was. And then in 2015, when we were doing our, the Christmas trip and stuff, we went to St. Martinville. And I went into the church. They have this beautiful church that goes back to the 1700s. And I was saying, I remember that she goes, oh yeah, that was in like the room off. Cause I remember like I had to walk through this like room into another room and that's where it was. It was so cool. And they would, we went on Lake Martin. We did an alligator, a swamp tour. And
Oh,
I've done a bunch of them. I never like the ones, I don't want to do the ones where they wrap the baby's mouth in duct tape. I think that's cruel and animal abuse, but I'll go to other ones. And what was great is that at one point there were two gators facing each other on a log. And our guy just stopped the boat and stared. We just stared at them because it wasn't an airboat, it was just an old motorboat. And then finally one went after the other. And then the rest of the ride, every time we went past another boat, our guide was like, hey, you wouldn't believe what I saw. He said, I've been doing this for 30 years and I never saw that before. And I have pictures of it, and I used them for a Christmas card at one point, where they're just two gators on a log in the waters, cypress log, staring at each other.
that's so funny.
Yeah.
That's so neat.
And what I love there, I remember when I was in like in the early 80s, I was stopped at Evangeline State Park and I wanted to ask the guard a question, and he was busy chattering away in French to someone. Like I said, I love that they still have their own language and food and music. It's such a fabulous culture within a culture that it pre-exists the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, it's really neat down there.
Yeah. Oh, thank
I so excited to make the live interview. I really enjoyed the first book in the Golden Motel, and eager to read the second installment, and really want to continue the cookbook series as well. Nice, Anne.
you.
I think you really liked the second one. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Where do you recommend a new to
Oh,
you reader to start with your books? I do want to read them all.
well, it depends what you're interested in. I mean, Roxy, you might like the Cajun countries because it should feel very close to you. And I think also you like the vintage cookbooks. But then if you want to get out of Louisiana, it's your choice. Do you want to go to Queens or do you want to go to California? So, and California to rural, to to gold rush country, so I think it's really, and you may start want to go, I'm not feeling this, and then just go to one of the others. You may not hit it right away. It may take you a book or two. But if you're new, I think it's always great to start at the beginning wherever you can.
Mhm.
Although I do feel with the vintage cookbooks that if you start with Wined and Died, which is the second book, you're fine. The series, sometimes these series are a little bit of what we call premise pilots.
Oh,
um
yes.
Premise pilot is like one that's like a fish out of water, like it's setting up the premise within the first episode.
Mhm.
The same is true, I think, of some series. You're setting up the premise within the first book.
Yep. We always talk about that when we talk. We're always, the first book is kind of the setup, is kind of the introduction
Yes.
to all the characters and what the theme is going to be, and all of those things. And not that first can't be good, but I always tell people it might not be the series for you, but read number two
Yes.
before any series, before you make
That,
that decision, unless it just wasn't a theme that you liked or something like that. But if it's just the book and you thought you would, read number two, because oftentimes the first is the setup,
yes,
and
exactly.
you have to get all this information dump, and it can feel like an information dump depending on how many characters you're being introduced to and all those things. So
And I'm the
um,
queen of
I
my cat thousands. That's why I have like a cheat sheet in the front so you can, which is harder, I guess, with the Kindles. But I mean, I just like to do that. But the other thing is that like as you're writing, what you set up may not be what's starting to speak to you. Like with the Cajun Country Mysteries, I set up Gaynell as an ear. My character Maggie needed an ear and a friend, and she was really fun to write. But as I wrote the series, Maggie's relationship with her grandmother, with Grandmère, became really fun to write.
mm,
So I had to back burner Gaynell a little bit. I eventually gave her in Fatal Pigeon Festival, I gave her own story. And then in
yeah,
the book, then I sent her off on tour for another book. So, I mean, and then I've written myself into a corner with relationships, like in the Catering Hall Mysteries. I realized as I was writing book two, Long Island Iced Tina, that I that the Jamie Mia relationship was going to not be great. It was going to be, it could end up, it was going to be boring. So I had to write away from that, but I wanted to have her have a love interest, because she's burned by her very impulsive marriage, burned by that, so she's tipping a toe in. But I did want, and so I had this image in my head. What if it was like the handsomest man in the world who hates being handsome? And so that created Shane. So I was able to keep Jamie in again as a friend, but create another much more fun love interest to write, a much more interesting character.
yeah. I liked that kind of misdirection, and where it went. I end up really, because I liked Shane a lot.
And
Um,
finding him was interesting because what happened is that I realized, oh, he's very buttoned. He's trying not to be who he was. And
yeah.
he's not comfortable being as handsome as he is. At one point he goes, hey ladies, me too goes both ways, And so But then I thought, okay, work. And then I had him, like, she sees their phone communication. He's sending her funny little gifts and little jokey things. And so I thought, okay, that's a way into seeing this other side of him. So making us, seeing, and so I loved finding that.
Yeah, I really end up like because I really liked him, and then there was I don't remember which book it was, but I'm not going to say what happens because it's a spoiler. But we find out information. I was like, whoa!
I can
And
say, find out that he's actually married, but not,
oh, okay,
like, yeah. But I mean, and I can't remember which one it is. Oh, I think it's the third one. But not like, but it's not like he's cheating on us. It
yeah,
was like, it was a drunken moment, but he's still technically married.
yeah.
And so, that's like, what?
But I
But
was too. I was like,
and he's trying to fix it because he realizes, oh shit, I'm in love with this woman. And I never thought, I just like ignored this other thing. And, it's like, I forgot basically almost forgot it was there.
right.
He's being kind of like, oh, and she's like, idiot,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is not good.
yeah. Hey Mel Max, she said hi, Tiffany. Hi,
Oh,
Ellen. Hi, everyone. Ellen, I love the Cajun Country series.
oh,
I have one book left to read. I just
oh,
read book six last month for Halloween, and I'm now saving book seven for
oh,
February for Valentine's Day. I'm a
readers.
seasonal reader.
Oh, well, it's too bad you missed. Thank you. Thank you. Next Halloween, you have to read French Quarter Fright Night.
Yes,
So yes,
I'm
and
excited.
then I have 2 Christmas books. Since you're a seasonal reader, I got 3. Oh my gosh, I just
Oh,
realized. I've got Cajun Christmas Killing. It's beginning to look a lot like Murder in the Catering Hall Mysteries, and now Crescent City Christmas Chaos.
yeah.
Oh, and my third Golden Motel is going to be a Halloween.
Oh, nice. That's
Yeah.
exciting.
And I did go up there, and I did we went up to Gold Rush Country, and I did a paranormal tour at night of Columbia where there were a ghost with a ghost hunter. So I used a teeny bit of that in the book.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
yeah.
I'm excited for it. I really am enjoying that series a lot.
Thank
Oh,
you.
she said yes to a crossover. She likes it. I
Well,
would love a crossover
hopefully the
mystery,
publisher will too.
right? Oh, a crossover would be amazing. Would be so cool. I also love the vintage
Oh,
cookbook.
thank you.
Tiffany, that would be a great I really want to do the Where Are They Now? It's just I've been saying it for how long, a long time, but I think the execution is what's holding me up because it'd be a lot like in order to ask somebody like, "Hey, would you want to do this about the series that you've
Yeah.
ended?" Because they might have to do work to be able to do it, and I don't know that, somebody wants to do that.
I mean, you could put it out to the community, say, would you like to just do a paragraph about where are they now?
Yeah, but
See,
I just think it would be so much fun.
yeah.
And I do. Will literally think about characters that I love.
Yeah.
If they're written well enough that I love them, I do think like, wonder what that person, especially like if enough times pass, I'm like, wonder what that person would think of 2025,
Yeah. Yeah,
or
exactly.
whatever the case is, because um, so I just think those characters stay with you. Yeah, to catch up with old cozy characters, I love
Yeah,
it. I love it.
it is. It's a
Uh,
wonderful idea.
oh, she said beautiful nail
Oh,
polish.
thank you. Yeah,
Uh,
it's my relaxation. Matthew Modine, yes, he was in Married to the Mob. And Michelle Pfeiffer, who was great at that great line, everything we have fell off a truck. Alec Baldwin was hilarious in that. We didn't realize, I think it was the first time he got a chance to be funny. He didn't last very long. But
hey, Regina. You're
oh,
never
hey
late,
Regina.
Regina. Never, never late. She said, Ellen, I love all your series. I can't
Uh,
believe none of your books have been optioned by a Hallmark or any network.
go figure. I don't know. I mean, I was saying yesterday that there was a
Oh, the
point
odds.
where Valerie Bertinelli was interested in the vintage cookbook mysteries, and even though she's much older
I
than the character, she's her persona is absolutely perfect. She's got this eager to please. You could see her being someone who does affirmations, but she's also feisty in her own sweet way. Personality wise, she would have been absolutely perfect for it. So
Yeah. Oh, I love
sorry, my
her.
glasses. I know I'm doing a lot of this and stuff, but my glasses are fixed. Sorry about that. I'm
I
gonna look like
agree
I have
with
9,000 ticks when someone watches this.
um, my husband reminded me, he was like, you need to tell Wings is one of his favorite shows. He said,
Oh,
um, please let her know. I was, okay, I will tell
well, it's
her.
so funny. We just went to a screening. What day is today? Tuesday. Well, Sunday night, we went to a screening at the Writers Guild of the new Knives Out movie, and Ryan Johnson, who created them, talked afterwards. That's one of the perks of being
Oh,
Writers Guild. You get to go to these screenings and hear the creators talk. And Tommy Church was in it. I was like, oh my God, there's Tommy. So just played
yeah,
Lowell.
he is a huge Wings fan. So, um,
Very cool.
and we had a good time with it because Annie McEwen is a huge Wings fan.
Oh
And
wow.
at Ashland, we were quoting lines from Wings, and we had a lot of fun with that because she's a big fan. And
Oh, that's
I
fun.
was
Oh,
like,
that's
"Oh
great.
yes, I've seen it all," because my husband's had me. Yeah,
Oh, River Ridge. Okay, got it.
I lived in
Oh,
River Ridge off of Jefferson Highway. My dad still lives on the South Shore in the house I grew up in.
okay.
I attended the University of New Orleans for college.
Yeah,
Very
you would know. That's awesome. Yeah, so we're I went to Tulane and our daughter went to Loyola. So, yeah, I love that city so much.
It's a neat place.
Yeah.
I'm almost fully healed. It has been a
Oh,
long haul, but I'm relieved that I'm yes, absolutely, and that's so good to hear.
yay. Yeah,
Oh,
St. Martin's a tourist church. Dates back to the 1700s. It's just beautiful.
wow. That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go as I have a meeting to attend, but really
Oh,
enjoyed the portion of the interview I was able to be here for. I'll watch. Bye, Anne. Have a great night.
bye. I
Ellen,
think
I
we're
like that you included oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. This is yeah.
I like that you included vintage cookbook recipes at the back of Bayou Book Thief. I really liked Ricky, and I'm planning to continue with the
Oh,
vintage.
that's great. Well, those what I do, I mean, the things I made like me, the great irony like for Ricky is that I'm not a cook. My daughter's a great cook. I love to bake, but I'm always on a diet. But she loves to cook and I'm not great, but I collect vintage cookbooks and I love them because they're such a anthropological, sociological study of their time and the artwork is so cool and so of its time. And so but I do adapt like the recipes so that I can update them. In either the first or second book, Gesundheit,
Thank
there's
you.
a recipe for brownies that I found in a 1940 cookbook called Mrs. Appleyard's that was very popular at the time. But when I looked at the recipe, I thought this is too little chocolate for now. So this recipe would never fly now. It will just not have enough chocolate bang for its buck because our taste palettes have changed, and
Mhm.
then timing, you can't like just go do this recipe because ovens are so different, like, pre Gesundheit.
Thank you.
So if you're having a sneezing attack,
I know.
ingredients don't exist anymore. I'll run into ingredients and I have to look like, what is that? There's a
Yeah.
jam ingredient and it's like a rare jelly that's not, or jam that isn't sold anymore and is only made in like a certain section of France, but was very popular for a time.
Mm.
So every one of my books has some and I literally will say at some point, don't I we were talking yesterday about, I did finally do, I feel like you can't do a vintage cookbook series without doing at least one aspic recipe, one jello mold. And the one I did was just a huge disaster, but I included it in the book and just said, don't make it.
It's funny because I did a series read along with of the Cheese Shop by Karina Moss, and
Oh,
on the channel, and she came on and she made this weird Jello cheese recipe, and she actually tried it on the internet. I was like, "You don't have to. Don't please don't." I was like, "Oh," because it
oh,
even
that's
looked.
funny.
It just looked, and she, yeah, it. I don't think it tasted good by by her reaction, but I think back and I'm like, man, our taste buds really have changed because
Yeah.
growing up, those aligned our picnic tables at any church function or any potluck.
Well, I have, like, when my daughter was littler, I have one of my brothers like cookbook for kids. It's either Better Homes or Betty Crocker or one of those. Um, and so there was a recipe for hot dog stew. And I thought you just one great thing is to look at the difference between children's cookbooks then and children's cookbooks now. And it's just fascinating. And I thought, well, let's try this. We threw it out. It was inedible. But that was like in 1966. That was, people made that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will definitely read the Golden Motel book
Oh,
3
yeah.
next year.
All Aboard for Murder. I just noticed there are like 3 other books that have the same title. So make sure you buy the right one.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's a busy woman right there. For your vintage cookbook series, have you ever thought about a murder happening during Essence Fest?
I have not, and it's a really good idea. I should look into that because I know I have to find out. And there was just an article recently about Essence Fest. They're negotiating right now with the city to make sure it happens again there. I have to be careful about not doing real things because I just got kind of screwed on. And Crescent City Christmas Chaos. I mean, I tend to like make up locations even in a real place, but I decided to go with Langenstein's because it's like the local in the area. It's just local kind of mom and poppy type. I think there were 2 of them in New Orleans. And so I was like, look, I wrote Langenstein's. I know, I've been there. I've shopped there. Well, guess what? In the last 6 months, Robert's, this other chain, bought the Langenstein. So it's not Langenstein's anymore. It's Robert's. And I already had someone say to me, oh, by the way, just so you know. And I said, yes, I know. But, too late. So I have to be very careful about using real things because like I could write about, Essence Fest and then suddenly it's going to happen in Atlanta, New Orleans for financial reasons. So.
Right. I just bought Plantation Shutters ebook.
Right.
I will start there after I finish my
you.
current read. Nice. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I had a little sneezing war there. I'm thinking Virgil will be there as a celebrity chef and a murder happened and he is the suspect.
Ooh, do you want to write it? Because that sounds great.
It is a great plot. Regina.
Very cool.
Well, before we get off here, I want to ask you, I know that you're a busy, busy lady. You always have stuff going on. What do you have coming up next for readers to find you? And then I'll add all your socials to everything. But as far as, do you have any upcoming events, anything like that? And then what are the dates that you know of next books?
Okay, so just so you know, I just found out accidentally. I was looking up Crescent City Christmas Chaos just kind of to see how it was doing, and I saw that I just want everyone to know that the ebook is on sale right now for $3.99, and it's on Kindle, and I know it's going to be on Kobo starting December 1st, but it might be there already. So if you haven't read it and you read ebooks, check it out with whatever platform you use to read ebooks because it could be on sale, and that's a great price for it.
Yeah.
I think I just finished all my my personal appearances. I can't remember. I'm not near my date book, and I'm like old timey. I actually write things down. But I will be at Left Coast Crime in the end of February and beginning of March, and that takes place this year. It's going to be in San Francisco, so that's really cool. And then I will be at Malice, and I'm the Toastmaster for that, which I'm excited about. That's the end of April. But between that, I'll be at the Tucson Festival of Books for the first time.
Oh.
That's in mid-March, so I'm very excited about that. And I hope someday in the New Orleans Book Festival, but so far they have not invited me. So even when I applied, they were like, no, thanks.
Oh, that would seem like you have a lot of homage books to New Orleans. Like you would think,
but they're a little snobby. They're snobby, unfortunately, and that makes me kind of sad. And but and it's hard because like I write what I write, and I'm proud of what I write. And if it's not highbrow enough for a certain audience, well, TFB.
Yeah, I have just learned that I read for enjoyment, and I'm gonna, that's how I see it. And if I'm not coming, somebody at my in-person book club said, you read how many books this year so far? And I, because I had said the number and first of all, they questioned me about the number. And I said, I'm not trying to be rude, but I'm not going to explain myself to you because I don't need to. We were just talking about the number we read. I said, but and she said, and none of those have been self-help. I said, well, let me explain. I read to escape reality, not improve it.
Oh, that's
So
a great way to put it.
I mean, but my point is like, I don't see anything as a guilty pleasure. I don't see anything as lower brow than the other. I say when that cozies are light, but that's what I'm seeking
Yes,
because the world is heavy enough that I want
agreed.
that. That's
100.
exactly what I'm looking for.
Exactly.
So
I mean, that's why I read historicals. It's just like it
yeah,
puts me in another world, you know.
yeah. Well, I am so excited for Malice and the
Oh,
Toastmaster. I mean,
I forgot
I
to tell you. You asked me. I'm sorry to interrupt you. What my next books were out.
yes.
All Aboard for Murder is out July 28th, 2026, and I believe um, uh, A Murder's Mardi Gras is actually going to come out a few weeks later. So it's kind of like back to backing.
Wait,
Sorry.
All Aboard for Murder, is that the next Golden
Third,
Motel?
yeah, that's next Golden
Okay.
Motel, and then A Murder's Mardi Gras is the fifth vintage cookbook. So both summer of
Yes.
2026. Apologize. Yeah, so you're going to come to Malice.
Oh yes.
Yay!
Oh yes. I already booked because you get the discount. So
Yay!
oh
Fantastic.
yes. Yes, yes. People said, thank you for joining us. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, thank you all for taking your time to hang out with us. And oh, that's great. The third,
Had my jaw unhinged. Yeah, see, that's where I'm at. I'm
yeah.
also just finished number 3, and I as well. That's why I'm like, oh,
Well,
okay.
wait till you get to number 4. That's yeah.
Yeah,
Work your way up.
I'm excited. We have a books along the
Yes,
literary
I
festival
would
every
love.
April.
I would love to be part. I actually got got a bookmark for them, and was thinking of applying, but my schedule didn't work out. But yeah, I would love to participate in that. I've been to New Iberia. I love it there. It's beautiful.
Um, that's a bummer about New Orleans. I'm inviting you, Ellen. Do readers have a say?
You know, I don't know. They might if they wade in. You know, bring Ellen, bring Ellen, bring Ellen.
Right?
But have you ever heard of the? Do you know an author named Karen White? She doesn't write necessarily mystery. She writes like women's fiction.
Oh,
Well, she wrote this like trad street series that was set in Charleston, I think, and now she writes a series set in New Orleans. It's kind of paranormally kind of, but it's also women. Anyway, it turned out she went to Tulane, and so I got in touch with her, and then and I thought I started asking some questions because I thought we might have a sorority in common or something. And it turned out that not only did she and I live in the same apartment about 10 years apart, the exact same apartment, it is one of the settings, it's where her protagonist lives, at least in the first book in her New Orleans series. But the reason I bring her up is like she's very successful. And she also writes with 2 other women whose last names begin with W. She's written books, the 3 W's. But she doesn't get invited either. Because I think, she's been very successful.
Hmm.
Yeah.
How weird is that? What a coincidence to have lived in the same
I
apartment.
know. I know. And then to have it be a setting. And when she's walking, where I read the first book and the character's walking from the bedroom into the kitchen, she's like, oh my God, she's walking from my old bedroom. That was my bedroom.
Isn't that weird?
It is. It's very wild.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. This was so much fun. Thank you for coming on, and I'm so excited for your new Golden Motel. Well, now it's not new. You're going on your 3rd book, but
Even
I just love it so much.
And thank you so much for having me. And thank you, every reader. There's not a reader on earth I'm not grateful for. And I'm not don't owe you a million for choosing my books when there's so much out there you could read. So, and you, love you. You're the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a great Thanksgiving. Thank you, everyone.
Too.
Have
You
a happy
too.
Thanksgiving and all that. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Happy
Good night.
holidays. Bye.